I'm Sarah Boardman, and I live at 1 Seaview Avenue, and have been here 62 years. I guess it's 62. In 1949, I married and left my father, and stopped eating him out of house and home, and he decided that he had enough money to build a house in Strathmere. And originally we had spent 16 years, or maybe even longer, in Ocean City, going there every year from the day school ended till the day before school started, and stayed there all summer in one particular house.
And where did you grow up?
I grew up in Marion, which is outside the suburb of Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in North Carolina. My parents both came from the South. And but my father's father was a man who ran a tugboat in Norfolk, Virginia. So my father was born in Norfolk, Virginia, and adored the ocean and adored the water. And he loved the beach and had to be at the shore. My mother was a southerner, but an inlander, and didn't like the beach, didn't like the shore, and didn't know how to swim or anything. But being a faithful wife, she came to the beach, and we loved Ocean City. But he decided, no, he didn't, it was getting too crowded. Now that was in 1949, and it was too crowded, and he decided to move south. So he came down here and he found this property and bought 10 40-foot lots at the end of Strathmere, 40 by 100, and built the house. He designed it himself, and because in Ocean City we had very little ventilation, and the only wind that we had that was good was from the northeast. And whenever the northeast wind blew, you didn't need the windows open particularly. So he decided that this house should have cross ventilation in every room. So he had it built by by a company down offshore in 1950. And by then, of course, I was married and living elsewhere, so I didn't come here until 1950. And he was so proud to show it off.
What was your family's name?
Family's name is Roberts. He was Littleton Roberts, and his wife, and my brother and I were the only two children. But we grew up at the beach, so we had to come to the shore every summer and stay all summer long. And at age 90 now, I'm doing the same thing. Only I'm doing it in this lovely house, and though I can't go to the beach as much as I did, I can sit on this nice screened-in porch and look out at a 180-degree sky and everybody on the beach. So I'm thoroughly thrilled with it.
Mm-hmm.
When he built it, there were dunes. There was as much beach as there is right now, but it was developed. It was a bird sanctuary, and you couldn't go near it, but we did have a Jeep, and we drove the Jeep down by what used to be the Boardman house, which is now the Boardman. The Boardman, who was a different Boardman family than we were. They lived in next to, they had moved it since across the street, catty-cornered, and it's now belongs to the Bucklands. But there was a path that led down to the beach, and you could drive your Jeep. So we had a Jeep and we'd have beach parties. And Mr. Brown, who lived down at one block, was kind of, we call him the mayor of Strathmere at that point. And he would give you a permit to have a beach party. And we would pay $5 to him and take everything that we wanted to, even card tables and chairs and everything, into the dunes down on the point where nobody could see you. You just saw the glow from the fire. And we would have a beach party, and then the next day we'd clean up after ourselves, and the next day Mr. Brown would investigate to make sure everything was all right, and if it was, he'd give us our $5 back. So yeah, that was special. We did that most every summer. We always had a beach party. So it was wonderful.
Sounds great. And then did you come here as a married woman?
That's it. We came originally the very first year that he had built it. And from then on, we came bringing dogs and parakeets and all kinds of birds. And my mother and father would welcome us, and we'd stay a couple of weeks. They'd love to have us, but then they would love to see us go home because there was a lot of commotion for older people.
And how many children did you have?
3. I have 2 girls and a boy. Susie's with me. She's my middle child, my mediator.
And the other children's names?
Marilyn was my oldest, and Chip, William Boardman IV, was the baby, who is now he's now 58. He's now 58.
And
but he's done a lot of the work around here, except for Chip. We couldn't have kept it up. This is an old house, and it's all made of wood, and we have 2 and 3 outlets in each room. You know, it's very old-fashioned, but we all love it. And the joy is that our children, not only our children, grew up here every summer, all summer, as long as they could stay, but our grandchildren. And I have a 32-year-old grandson who has been here for his birthday in August every year since he's been born. So I live in a retirement center in Philadelphia, and I don't have but 2 bedrooms, so the family can't get together. But we all know Strathmere and this beautiful house, and we come every year.
And it's been 4 generations?
4 generations. Yes.
And almost close to maybe the 5th,
Yeah,
right?
The fifth is 5. There is 5 generations. We have one. I have 1 great grandchild. It's only 8
So
months
5
old.
generations.
And she came down, has been here. She was here
We
5
forgot
days.
about Jenny.
Huh?
We forgot about Jenny.
Yeah.
New addition. She's just 8 months old.
That sounds great. Now, your father bought many lots on the
Yes.
point here.
Yes.
And do all those lots remain?
Most of them do. And the reason he bought so many is that there was supposed to be another street beyond here,
Toward the point.
towards the point. And therefore, and he bought the lots. Well, he bought really almost a whole block so that we'd have plenty of property. We've lost 3 lots to the ocean, which came in
I'm not sure, like 2010, something like that. 20.
the ocean was beating against, it was on the property. At every high tide, the water would come in. We had a tree out in front, out on the side here, on the north end, and the ocean took the tree away. And every high tide, the ocean was in the yard. So we all of these people at the north end had to put in a wall. We put in a 28-foot steel wall, and I had to put it from the next door neighbor's, the end of the next door neighbor's property, out for 3 blocks, three extra blocks, I think, and then across.
Mhm. And that was in approximately 2010, maybe?
It was after the big storm. The first big storm that I remember was 1944, but the 1962 storm, we were home because it wasn't a hurricane like you would have now in September and October, but it was in March, and it was called a northeaster.
Mm-hmm.
But it was very damaging, and the island was closed, and no one could find out about their properties at all. So I remember we drove down from Philadelphia with our binoculars and got onto the Garden State Parkway and looked with our binoculars to see if the house was still there, and found out that it was, so we were relieved.
Was it damaged?
No, it's never been damaged except to have one in the 62 storm. It had 17 inches of water in the basement. And in Sandy, we had
about
10 inches of water.
We're supposedly on the high end of Strathmere, so that we in big storms we used to get, before we put the wall in, we used to get, like, when we put the wall in, and my brother's the engineer, talked about this, because our property goes out farther than the neighbors, we kind of had to put a wall, their wall would stop here, and we had to go out, and so it made a 90-degree angle, so the waves came in and smashed, as my brother would predict, all over and came in. Our entire yard was flooded, and that's before they put the boulders in, and then did the reconstruction of the sand.
Right, because the wall went in first.
The wall went in first.
Literally, the bulldozers were sliding into the water. They had to come onto our yard to finish putting the fence in, the wall in. It was just like we barely got it in, and that was really bad. That was very scary. We felt for the first time like maybe, we might lose the house.
And basically this was recent from a history standpoint, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
I
This
mean,
was
it was
recent.
never any big storm. It was just erosion, and just come, they redo the sand, and it does the same thing over and over. It's
And it all lands in the bay.
Yeah, and
Yes. And did you end up paying for this?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
The homeowners?
Each of us had to pay
our
for
own wall,
our own wall.
and that's when we lost the 3 lots. So now we only have 7. But I guess it has cheated to this day.
Tell me about what it was like for Susie, for you and your sister and brother to spend your summers here.
I absolutely adore this place. I was born in May.
Year?
1956. I just turned 60. I've spent 60 years here. I'm proud to say that. I was born in May, and I started coming down in July. For 60 years, every summer I've been coming here.
And all summer?
No, well, as Mom was saying, my grandparents her parents couldn't really handle us for more than 2 weeks at a time, and then we would go home, and then he'd say, when are you coming back? And we'd
they'd
come back.
always do that.
So we kind of did this back and forth thing growing up as we
They
were
needed
young.
a rest.
Sure.
After you have children, dogs, parakeets,
We had
birds flying
parakeets.
around.
My sister had a blue one and I had a green one, and we used to let them go in here. I can't believe that Canyon Pocket let us do that. And they used to fly around in the screened-in porch. I mean, we were kind of intense for them, but then after they died in the 1968. Once they died, we started coming down here every summer, all summer.
All summer long.
So that was pretty neat. I remember growing up here, it was so cool when we were younger, because there were hardly any people here. I mean, we didn't have all these mansions on these little plots of land. They were just small cottages.
And your home would have been considered
The biggest. I mean, we had the most land and all that. But the point was, there were a lot of lots that were just weeds and fragmity and beautiful. You could hear, and it was so quiet. I remember at night, my friends and I, after dinner, would just walk the streets. We'd walk all over Strathmere. We'd ride bikes sometimes, but we'd just walk all night. Just hanging out, talking, having fun, and we never had to worry about tons of traffic. I remember the blinking light. You could stand under the blinking light in the middle of the road and hear the light blink and just hear that clicking sound. And there was no one around. It was fantastic. I mean, we didn't have all the people that are here now. We didn't have the noise and the crowds, and it was just really different. I remember growing up with my brother. We used to go seining in the bay, and we would catch these little horseshoe crabs, little seahorses, all kinds of baby flounder, all kinds of baby. It was just so rich with sea life that's just not there anymore. But that was really kind of cool. We used to row a dinghy up and down the bay, and we used to sit. One time we sat on a raft facing each other, that chum pot in the middle of us. And Chip would say, I'm going to catch a flounder as big as this half of the bay. And they'd say, I'm going to catch a flounder as big as the bay. I mean, we were like 8, 9, 7, whatever. But this all used to be sand dunes. And I remember as a young child leaving Mom, who would be in the hollow of the sand dunes sunbathing, and she's a sun worshiper like me. And I would come to the house to get water or whatever, and then I'd come back and running up and down these sand dunes, looking in the hollows, like, where's Mom? Because they just kind of went on forever. And then I'd finally discover her in the middle of the sand dunes. But just remember a lot of dunes. I remember Mom talking about the beach parties was just, there was a kind of respect and order and kind of rhythm to Strathmere life that you don't see now. So we had these rules and everybody followed them about, oh, we want to have a beach party. Well, that's fine. And this is what we need to do. So we'd fill out the forms and we'd do what we had to do. I remember very concerned about making sure we put the fire out and cleaning it all up. We didn't just leave trash all over and then coming back and it was inspected to make sure that it was clean. And then his mom said, we get our $5 back. But, you know, that was, nobody would ever think of just having a beach party on your own. I mean, that was just kind of the rules. Mm-hmm. But it was...
respect for neighbors and nature?
And
yes.
nature, and there was respect.
And just kind of quiet, and it was a really different, I mean, this place is still my heart, and you know, it will always be, and I'm so happy to have raised my son here. My son, who is now 21, came down for 5 days with his girlfriend, and he loves it here.
Sure.
You know, he doesn't get down as much, but all of us, all of the kids, all of our children.
He's studying oceanography.
He's studying maritime studies. So he's become really interested in sailing. He adores the water. He's in University of Yukon, University of Connecticut on Groton. He's in the maritime studies program in the marine science campus on Groton, not at main campus. But he's devoted his life to the ocean, and that is a great legacy. I think that Mom, I guess Haga and Mom,
The
to
family,
us,
the
to
Roberts family just
adore the ocean.
Yep.
So that, I just feel really privileged that we've had the time here, and that particularly Chip and Marilyn and I experienced it in a different way, which was even more special
than your own children.
than my own children. But you know, happy that they have their memories. And Eric, who is Marilyn's oldest, my nephew, once told me he wishes he could bottle the smell of the salt water. And by the bay, you know, when the tide's, not when it's real stinky mud flats, but when it's starting, there's that smell that you know. He said, I wish I could bottle that because I just love that smell. So it's in your blood.
And how did you, when you'd come down in the summers, how would you meet your chums and your friends, and how did that all evolve?
I was really good friends with Sissy Griffin. The Griffins used to live over here before they sold the house, and then someone else built something new and it's rented, I think, mostly now.
Yeah.
Kathy Green, and they have a house now up near the lifeguard stand.
Williams,
yeah, where you are. And Colleen Cox, friends with the Coxes. They were my three buddies, and so they had the
all
same,
of which are still here.
all of which is still here.
Yeah, they're all still here.
Yeah, and Josie, two other friends, Josie and Lisa. I don't see them as much. They were in a different group, but we, the three of us, all of those, as you're saying, are still here, and they had the same upbringing. I mean, they all have their houses. They all came here in the summer, and we just kind of hung out in the summer, and we just meet each other on the beach, or we go surfing, or I don't even remember. I don't think they surfed. I was the only one that surfed, but so yeah, we just kind of got together and went to each other's houses.
So what was a typical day for a child in Strathmere in the 60s? What was a typical Strathmere day?
Well, it depends. I mean, I think as we were children, younger, in our I was born in 56, so, you know, younger, as I said, I'd just go fishing with my brother, or hang out, or go rowing, or we used to go to, we rode to Twisties.
But with freedoms, that's what I kind of want you to...
Yeah, and we rode to Twisties, and we used to get chicken sandwiches and orange soda, and we'd tie the dinghy up to the dock. I mean, this is way before Gary and Denise ever took it over, and, you know, it was still kind of a wreck, but that was one thing. But later as a teenager, we'd spend more time on the beach just sunbathing or hanging out, swimming, and, you know, so it was always, at least for me, I spent a lot of time just being on the beach, walking on the beach, surfing.
And what was a typical night like? A Strathmere night for a typical household?
I don't know if you could say we had I mean, I just remember growing up, like I said, having,
You'd come back from the beach about what time?
I don't know, sometimes if I was surfing, I wouldn't come back till 6. When the surfing days, I used to be surfing by like 10, surf till 12 or 1, come home for a lunch, eat a huge sandwich in those days, you know, tons of food, and then come back and surf again all afternoon. So it was just like on the water all day long. Mm-hmm. And there were several years, I mean, I surfed like that maybe from I was like 13 to a couple years, maybe 13 to 16, something like that. I surfed maybe 3 or 4 years with my friends, but then I kind of got out of that. And once I went to college, I kind of stopped surfing. But so I don't know. You know, we would just hang out together at night or walk. I just remember walking a lot and riding our bikes, and we'd get together. People would come here on the porch.
Ride your bikes after dinner,
Yeah.
or go for a walk after dinner. Sunset, we'd always ride your bikes down to the boat ramp, just to watch the sunset.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this was
all this nice
before
and peace and
video
quiet.
games and all that. I can't. I'm dating myself, but I can't handle the cell phones and the video.
Constant attention, constant stimulation
texting and
is more than we can manage.
so. Yeah,
So it was okay to have peace and quiet and relax, right? That was part of the culture.
Right.
And I would spend all day sitting on the beach with the round bottoms. We had a group that we called the round bottoms. I think there was 4 or 5 of us. And the reason they were round bottoms is obvious, because we were older and we had round bottoms. And it turned out that after a while, we'd go to the beach. We'd meet every day after lunch and spend the whole afternoon on the beach, just sitting and talking. And
Were these women from the North End?
most of them were from the North End. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dottie Fair, Judy Dunn, Marianne,
Amrad, Mrs. Scott,
yes, and Betty Disher every now and then,
Mrs. Morrison.
and Edie Morrison, yes. All these the old round bottoms. It turned out that when we had the 4th of July parade, there were the round bottoms, and they would always, each year, have a float. And they would their floats were always creative and always very good. And they would dress outlandishly and have a marvelous time. And the parade in the 4th of July parade started with Duns, who on the 4th of July evidently had a party and had a little bit too much to drink and decided that they would have a 4th of July parade because there wasn't enough commotion and there wasn't enough excitement. Mm-hmm. And so they picked up pots and pop tops, and they found the flag, and her sons pretended that they were the 3 people that are in the 4th of July. Mm-hmm. And they went all around the neighborhood banging on pots and saying, "Happy 4th of July, happy 4th." And that was the first 4th of July parade. That has since grown, and now this year we had 50 or 60
Legion riders.
Motorcycles. We had very few floats, and I do miss the round bottoms, but they always won. Everybody said, "Oh, here they are again," those old ladies. So we loved it. And we just had a quiet time. We had a wonderful time talking, swimming.
And people just got along, didn't they?
We all got along. Yeah, and I knew everyone on the beach. Back then, you knew everyone on the beach. Now, we
That's
know.
really true.
That's a big difference.
We used to know everybody just on the beach. We'd say hello to everybody. And now, when you walk, there's so many renters. I mean, so many people kind of coming in and out that you rarely see people that you know. You know, so it's different. It's real different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're good stories. Let's see what else we could touch on. Talk about how you'd come down for the summer, and the husbands, right? They'd go back to work, and the women and the children would stay all summer. Is that right?
That's true. That's true. And I remember my husband had to go leave on Monday and come back on Friday, or leave me here, because one year we had the house painted. And the painter kept saying he would be there tomorrow. He will be there today. I'll be there Tuesday. And he would never show. So it took forever. And someone had to be in the house. So I would stay here and my husband would go home. My father used to ride the train from Ocean City, from 24th Street in Ocean City, up to Philadelphia. And which I'm sure was taken care of by Ken when he talked about the railroads in Strathmere.
Right. But that was common, wasn't it?
That was common, yes. But
this is good. Is there anything else we could touch on right now that we haven't touched on?
No, I mean, I remember having memories with, you were talking about Josie. Josie Burt was a good friend of mine. She rented here for a while. She has a house up in Ocean City now. And
Okay.
Lisa Cope is her married name now. She used to be, Reagan was her
Lisa
maid.
Ellie Reagan, their mother,
They were good friends of mine. I kind of started hanging out with them when I was 12, but the fun part I remember is we used to do the belly boards. And so I remember, racing around, like we'd steal each other's belly boards and take waves in. And so they were just, good friends. We also hung around with some of the lifeguards when we were young. Dennis, Dennis and Jim
Schroeder.
Schroeder. They were like the first lifeguards, and I remember we used to have these sand fights with each other, and of course everybody, rightfully so, was like, what kind of lifeguards are you guys? You're supposed to be watching the people in the water. And we were too busy like having sand fights or whatever, but it was just, the days were really geared toward just being on the beach. I mean, you would say when you grew up, you used to go, when you were growing up, you used to be on the beach from 10 in the morning until 6
the
p.m.
thing was, when I was 14 or 15, there was a very good, and I was down at Ocean City at 21st Street, and there was a good-looking lifeguard, and he was about 18 or 20. Never even knew I was alive, but I just thought he was a god on earth. And so I was down there every morning at 10 o'clock, and he would stay there till 6. And that's how I ended up with the melanoma and had too much sunshine. But I love it. I've always loved it. Mm-hmm. And we would just, the first thing we'd do is after breakfast go to the beach. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And just come back for lunch, leaving all your stuff down there. Nobody would take it. Nobody would take it, and you just leave everything down there, come back and eat lunch, and then after, go right back again and swim 4 and 5 times a day.
Okay, well, this is perfect, and I thank you so much. You've really given us great insight on the way the town was.
Yeah, that's fun.
And I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just wanted to add something. Forgot to mention when my brother and I were growing up that he took us water skiing a lot. He was really into boats. In fact, when he was 10, he started working at Frank's Boats. And he lived on the bay. He hardly ever went to the ocean. My sister and I were at the ocean. He was on the bay. But he was always into boats. So he's had boats growing up.
He worked for Frank's Dock and went to, what are you looking, the little guys that fishing?
Oh, he did minnowing.
He did. He went minnowing all the time, and he.
But the point was, he had a series of boats growing up. Always took great care of them. They lasted forever. So he taught me to water ski. The way he taught me to water ski was to throw me in the water. Well, this was actually, I water skied double water skis for a long time, but then he wanted to teach me to slalom, which I haven't done for years, and I miss so much. It was one of my favorite sports. But once the boat left, that was the end of that. But the way he taught me to slalom was threw me in the water and said, you're going to get up. So I, put the one ski, and I try and get up, like 5 times, try and get up. Never manage it. Said, okay, get in. Next day, go out again, throws me in the water. I got up the first time, and I slalomed ever since. It was one of my favorite sports. And we would go all over the bay, all over the place. And we didn't have the jet skis, and we didn't have, in those days we had quiet little sailboats, and it was just really different. There weren't a lot of people in the bay, a lot of boats in the bay, and we used to just spend, and with Dennis's boat, I used to spend half an hour just hanging on the back of this thing, skiing all over, and those were really good memories, good times. So That's something else that we kind of miss. The jet skis here, they're all over. We watch them bounce off the waves and they make that whiny noise, and don't mention the cigarette boats that are in and out. I guess we just like quiet, maybe too much, but that was a real big difference, but a lot of fun growing up with the skiing.
Well, that was the purpose of coming from the city years ago, right?
Right.
Wasn't that the purpose?
Yes, it was the purpose. Come to the shore to relax and to do what you wanted to do, something peaceful and quiet and fun
And simple.
and simple. What days would just fly by, and we weren't doing anything fantastic, but we just were having a ball.
And how did one learn to swim in those days?
Well, I think my kids learned to swim in the Flanders pool, because the Flanders at that time did not have a Ferris wheel and all of that.
Yeah, no amusements.
There was no amusement park. There was a pool in front of it, Flanders pool, and so all three of my children learned to swim in the Flanders pool.
And Flanders is located
At 11th Street in Ocean City, and our next door neighbor in Philadelphia, in Rosemont, where I first lived before I moved into the old folks home, as I call it. The next door neighbor was born in the Flanders Hotel because his mother decided to go to Ocean City, and he arrived early, so he didn't get to be born in a hospital. He was born at the Flanders, and I envied him so, because I thought that was pretty neat to be born at the shore.
So Flanders would have swimming lessons and
Swimming
such?
lessons, yes, always. And I would go up. We'd go up once or twice a week to the Flanders to swim. My oldest daughter, Marilyn, I think, was taught by Wally, somebody, in the bay. They had the bay. We have now a little gully kind of thing at the bay at the point, and in those days there was quite a bay kind of thing. It was deep enough so that this young man, gave swimming lessons to all the kids.
But I remember she also taught us to swim, because I remember wading out with her and her saying when waves came, okay, we're going under, you can go over this one's too big, let's go under. So I remember all of that. So thanks, Ma.
And outdoor showers?
We have the outdoor shower here in the back.
We still use it.
I use it. I mean, a typical day would you go to the beach in the morning, walk, sunbathe, swim, whatever, come back and take an outside shower, and then have lunch, then go back again.
And how did families live with septic systems?
Ours is one of the only ones that's still flat under the ground. Because
was there a difference when you came down from Rosemont, PA? Did you transition into living with a septic, and how was that different, if it was at all?
The only thing, sometimes it would overflow, so sometimes we'd have like
dishwasher.
No, I don't know if there was much of a difference.
There wasn't much of a difference. No, there wasn't much of a difference.
I mean, we'd have to get it cleaned out. We called a honey dipper.
Every August we would have it cleaned out.
And so, I remember once or twice there'd be some toilet paper when we came in the yard that something had weird happened to it. But it was never any, it was just sort of the maintenance of the house. You had it cleaned out every year or every 2 years.
But
there wasn't.
If you had a lot of people in the house, after a big summer with a lot of people in the house, you had to have it cleaned out.
Were you one of the families that did the one flush or two flush? Did you flush every time? I mean,
we had no rules like that. We didn't, you can only use a certain amount of toilet paper. You can only flush. We were never into that. We used to call this place, we still sometimes call this place Sarah's Hotel, because now, with our children, and then now we're getting grandchildren, and people, sometimes this place can be completely filled, and sometimes it's like now it's only Mom and me kind of rattling around, but yeah, I don't remember that. It's funny because we kind of have to stage, and as the kids, us three kids, now we're in our 60s, 63s, 58, would, kind of have to say we're block out this time, because as we each had families, then they would bring friends and
fill up the house.
and so then we would
So
say,
we-
okay, well, Marilyn's here for this time, and we try and overlap, but that's kind of how a lot of the summer went more recently, as we had more people come in.
And how many bedrooms did this house have, and how many bathrooms?
Oh, well, the bathroom is funny. The bedrooms are
Four upstairs.
six altogether, 6 bedrooms, counting, and one downstairs, when Mother and Daddy had the house, they had a maid, and she had the bedroom downstairs. And so the bedrooms were fine. And
We had people visiting them, so you could count that as, it's a wreck now since Sandy.
It-
We used to
Right.
use a
But it is-
storage place.
now
It is on grade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 7, and then
You see, the
Really,
house is built in 3 levels, and the first level is just the garage, thank heavens, just the garage and the cellar. And we are not on pilings. We're just built on the ground. And
You have a concrete block foundation, right?
Right.
we have a concrete block foundation and a cinder block first floor. And our living space, thankfully, is on the second floor. So that when we've had 17 inches of water in there, it's
when
only
Sandy
been...
came, it didn't get our furnace, because the furnace is on the side, so it just didn't.
Which was really novel for the time in which your father, Mr. Roberts, built this
Well,
house.
he built the house and we had oil heat, and it was upright, oil heat. And then we changed to gas heat. And when they changed, they put it on its side, 3 feet above the ground. I mean, above this floor.
And heat was different, wasn't it? You were one of the few that had heat.
Oh yes, we do have heat. We have heat all summer long, all winter long. I keep it at 52. It's better, I think. It's nice to have heat. And then we could come down in the winter. We've spent Thanksgiving down here. Halloween down here.
I think every holiday except Christmas. I don't think we've ever spent Christmas here, but we have had a number of Thanksgivings.
And for the time period, there were many people that did not have heat, did not have the ability to come in the winter,
No,
right?
they would close up the house completely and drain everything and leave and not come back until May.
Mm-hmm.